All right, and finally we have our reactions for amines. The only reaction that we're going to discuss right now, because we will cover the amide reaction later in a different chapter, are the acid-base reactions for amines. So since that nitrogen group can actually act as a base, just like it can when you have ammonia. So ammonia can react with hydrochloric acid to make a salt that would be ammonium chloride. So we remember doing that before. This hydrogen just gets transferred from one molecule to the other. And in the process, you make a nitrogen that has 4 bonds, and that actually gives it a charge, right? So that ammonia has a +1 charge. The chlorine has a -1 charge, that chloride does. So you have this salt with that positive and negative balanced out as a product. Right? Remember, you're not actually supposed to include charges in a formula like that, but that's what it is. That's why you have 1 ammonium for every chloride. So this is very similar with an amine. I just might have a carbon attached to that nitrogen as well as 2 hydrogens. If I react that with hydrochloric acid, all you have to do is transfer the hydrogen from one thing to the other. It looks fairly similar. The nitrogen does actually have 4 bonds now, so it ends up with a positive charge. This one I actually want you to draw out because it's a structure, not necessarily a formula. And that positive charge is going to attract your chloride ion, so you have this product over here that is very similar to that ammonium chloride before. We're going to name it a little bit differently. In order to name a product in this reaction, you have to use a common naming system. So basically, I need to look at this primary amine over here and understand that I could name it a methylamine. Remember, you also have the option to call it an aminomethane. But if you want to, you can call it methylamine. That's just the common style naming system. But the reason why you would want to use the common name is now I can change that amine ending to ammonium. Right? So this product over here is actually a methyl ammonium chloride. So if you want to name the product because you want to get that bonus point like you guys usually do, that's how you're going to have to do it. Right? So you get this ammonium looking thing. It has 4 bonds on that nitrogen, so it's very similar to that. It has the positive charge just like an ammonium. So this thing up here is ammonium chloride. And so is that similar thing down before. You're just going to say a methyl first because there's a methyl attached to that nitrogen. And this would work for any primary, secondary, or tertiary amine, so we could do another example like that. Right, but if I'm going to do a secondary amine, let's say we do this version, that would be an ethylmethylamine. And I react that with some acid. It doesn't matter what the acid is, remember, so I could make it a nitric acid if I wanted to. And in this reaction, I just transfer a hydrogen from one thing to the other. So I redraw my amine, but this time it has 2 hydrogens instead of the 1. That 2 is kind of goofy looking. But now I have a positive charge with that nitrogen, and it's going to be attracted to some nitrate floating around somewhere. So it doesn't really matter where you put it, just put it up here. And then there's an attraction between those 2 things, positive and negative. But this would be called a ethyl methyl ammonium nitrate now. Right? So let me see if I can write that in here. Methyl. Again, instead of saying amine, you'll just say ammonium. And then name the anion as well, the nitrate. And you got yourself a bonus point. So these are fairly easy. Just transfer a hydrogen from one thing to the other. If you already have a quaternary amine, it's not possible to gain another hydrogen. You can't turn that quaternary thing with a charge already into a, I don't know what it would be called next. memorized. But you can't have 5 things attached to a nitrogen. But as long as it's primary, secondary, tertiary, you should be able to do one of these acid-base reactions, and you can even name your product. So those are your options. That's how you're going to do that. Should be pretty simple. Just use your common naming system and then flip that amine for an ammonium, and you have a new name.